The Manchurian Candidate, directed by John Frankenheimer in 1962, is a story about an American prisoner of war who returns to America after his hard work and accomplishments as an infantryman. However, he was brainwashed during his time on duty, which ultimately led to heavy and unfortunate predicaments throughout his post-war life. The infantryman in discussion is Raymond Shaw, played by Lawrence Harvey. But before we dive into the story, it's important to understand the mind of the person who created this film. Let's discuss the director, John Frankenheimer. On February 19th, 1930, John Frankenheimer was born. And funnily enough, he was born in Queens, New York, New York, the main location where the Manchurian Candidate takes place. This isn't his only connection to the film though. In the 50s, he was drafted in the Air Force and assigned to ROTC, and ultimately ended up as a lieutenant in California. This time as an Air Force squadron not only provides inner knowledge of Raymond Shaw's fields within the military, but he also utilized this time to focus on his filming skills. Frankenheimer claimed that he was allowed to use the lighting and cameras from the Air Force's photography units for his own projects. He was his writer, producer, and even cameraman. But unfortunately, after 15 weeks, the Federal Communications Commission, also known as the FCC, terminated the program and Frankenheimer was eventually discharged from the military. As time went by, he worked on shows such as You Are There by Sidney Lumet, Danger by Charles Russell, and Person to Person by Edward R. Murrow. He quickly became a preeminent figure for the golden age of television with numerous shows under his belt. Fast forward almost 10 years later, and one of his greatest films of the time was born, The Manchurian Candidate. So, why is this important? Well, besides Raymond Shaw's life and most of the movie taking place in Frankenheimer's hometown, a person who was surrounded by military men during the Korean War and was familiar with political viewpoints addressed on camera, Frankenheimer was a great candidate. Diving into the actual film, the audience is introduced to Raymond's family. His stepfather and vice presidential candidate, Senator John Iselin, played by James Gregory, and his mother, Eleanor Shaw Iselin, played by Angela Lansbury, and their relationship with one another. We almost instantly realize his parents aren't the best. They're instantly using his achievements from the military for their political gain, and Raymond does not want to be part of it. He even tries to block his mother out when she confronts him about it.
And I'm your mother. How can you talk to me this way? You know I want nothing for myself. You know that my entire life is devoted to helping you and to helping Johnny. My boys, my two little boys.
And this isn't the first time either. We've seen him do this in the past as well.
I will go with you to Washington. Tomorrow, if you like, and I will show you documented proof that this man stands for evil, that he is evil, and that his whole life is devoted to undermining everything that you and I and Johnny and every freedom-minded American...
She won, of course. She always does.
Throughout the next scenes, we learn that Raymond was brainwashed, or as Dr. Yen Lo, played by Kai Day, says, conditioned.
I must ask you to forgive their somewhat lackadaisical manners, but I have conditioned them, or brainwashed them, which I understand is the new American word.
By a group of people who we later find out were signed off or approved by his own mother.
I told them to build me an assassin. I wanted a killer from a world filled with killers, and they chose you.
Raymond goes through the film battling his own mentality, questioning who did the activities that he himself had done, and doing events that lead him to his own suicide, unfortunately. But he does take his controlling parents along with him.
You couldn't have stopped them. The army couldn't have stopped them. So I had to. Oh, God, Ben.
Now, I believe Frankenheimer is addressing two key elements throughout this film. A, the brainwashing or conditioning
I have conditioned them.
of POW soldiers and the effect it carries throughout their lives, and B, the unfortunate power of those in control of said brainwashing, especially when it's in the wrong hands. Beginning with B, the mother using the powers for her own gains shows exactly how abusive the brainwashing can become, let alone in a political field. It wasn't just a simple, you will love me as your mother forever, but more of a, you will be my killing machine and kill anyone who gets in our way.
Mother! That vile, slandering husband of yours. Where is he?
Darling, something very important has come up. There is something you have to do.
What the hell is that in your hand?
It's a pistol, sir.
Raymond, what are you...
Raymond, no! Raymond, darling!
As for the initial effects of the brainwashing, it allows the audience to understand the true impacts to the mind that the military and war have on people. This actually reminded me of Martin Scorsese's Shutter Island. I mean, think about it. We're put in a world where a man who was traumatized by his doings in his past was given this false hope lifestyle to pretend the reality of being mentally ill was non-existent, and eventually realizing it's better to be killed than to live with that knowledge.
Oh, God, Ben.
And though in Shutter Island it isn't explicitly said that he chose the lobotomy after knowing his mental illness, it can be safely assumed based on his quote at the end of the film.
Which would be worse? To live as a monster? Or to die as a good man? Teddy?
Well, with that being said, Frankenheimer was known for his psychologically charged films, and The Manchurian Candidate is emblematic of the 1960s with several traits that concreted his directing signature. Frankenheimer explored themes of control, manipulation, and political corruption, all of which have been live during the post-war era of America in the 1950s. And we as the audience see moments of this from the presidential election to the control by his own mother, and he successfully blends both fears with the psychological horror of the time that ends up reflecting the uncontrollable anxiety of brainwashed and war-impacted prisoners of war. Outside of the film itself, his cinematography definitely defines a pattern. The focusing usage alludes to the perspective of Raymond, such as when he's looking at his friend with the cards.
52 Red Queens and me are telling you, you know what we're telling you? It's over. The links, the beautifully conditioned links are smashed. They're smashed as of now because we say so. Because we say they ought to be smashed.
And the obvious perspective moments at the beginning when we see Dr. Lee addressing what has happened to them.
To believe that they are waiting out a storm in the lobby of a small hotel in New Jersey, where a meeting of the Ladies' Garden Club is in progress.
You will notice that I have told them they may smoke. I've allowed my people to have a little fun in the selection of bizarre tobacco substitutes.
Nonetheless, with the chaos of those impacted by the war mixed with the political disputes related to communism, The Manchurian Candidate was a great film for the time when addressing unrecognizable damage or control, and it's one of the iconic political films that I believe was made at the right place at the right time.
Why is all of this being done? What have they built you to do?
I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows except Beletsov in Moscow and my American operator here. But whatever it is, it's supposed to happen soon. Right at the convention. Maybe. I don't know. They can make me do anything, Ben.